Hey there YouTube, Petey Twofinger here at the remote music area. You can see we're under surveillance at all times. There is a sanitary canal for vomit, urine, feces, and other bodily functions. Plenty of fishermen, never a lack of fishermen. Here's the pavilion where we like to play. Gives us some shelter, but more importantly, echo. The difference between playing outside and outside in something like this is night and day with the sound, because in here you get some echoes and it improves the sound quite a bit. So here's the camera rig. It's a JVC little camcorder guy like that, and then in here is a sealed lead acid battery, and here in this box the power from the sealed lead acid battery comes in to this voltage regulator with a beefy heatsink and a fuse. So that drops the 12 volts of the sealed lead acid cell down to 5 volts, which is what runs the camcorder. So taking a look over here, we'll start with the base rig. We've got a Zoom V1 with 3 patches. There's a clean patch, an auto wah patch, and a distortion or a bass fuzz patch, powered off of this pair of 2650. I don't know, these are some big lithium ion batteries. But here's, I'll go ahead and get the base out. Here's the unicorn headless bass. I bought this when I was a kid, and I still have it. It's a quality instrument. It's got the tuners down here, and you don't need to tune it much. So coming over to here, the guitar rig is just a Zoom G3 full of custom patches, and then this is some type of a battery pack here. What do you think that's for? It's got a display. It tells you charge it up on the in port, and then it goes out here. Minus 9 volts, and it's 5400 mAh. So this is probably full of 18650 cells. We've got the Steinberger. It's an interesting little tool that I use to put the whammy bar on. I can show you that. It's a 1.5 millimeter hex driver. So this is like a screwdriver, but it has an Allen head. Terminates in a 1.5 millimeter Allen head. Yeah, certainly don't want to lose that one. So the guitar goes into the Zoom. There's an expression pedal for that. Does all kinds of different stuff. Echo, volume, master volume, rate on the Univibe. All different stuff. It's all custom patches. Last night I made some patches and reorganized everything because we got a bunch of new songs and it's just kind of a mess. So put a bunch of that stuff in order. Oh, thank goodness you got a software with that, and you can do it just by moving the mouse, because it really saves some time. Now, coming out of the guitar, we've got this stereo cable. It's like a headphone extension adapter, and it's 6.35 millimeter stereo cable, goes to a splitter. And so one cable, excuse me, I'm all wrong on this. Coming out of the Zoom, it goes up to this EQ, okay? This has 2 9-volt batteries in it, so we hit that switch to power it on, and it's bass, mid-range, and treble. And this is for a bass guitar harness for the pickups. You can get these little circuits, the little plastic box, for $8 or $9, and I put 2 of them in this box to make a little rudimentary, quote-unquote, preamp. Better than nothing. Set list. So the audio signal comes out of the Zoom into the EQ. And coming out of the EQ comes down to this cable here with this splitter. And one channel coming out of the splitter goes into the powered mixer. The other channel here breaks out and goes into here. And this cabinet, I'll open this. I really probably should have, there's tape on it. But this is just a 50 by 2. You can see the amp board in there. There's the amp board, and then it's full of battery. So it runs about 24 volts with 4 of those 18650 by 3. Now this speaker here, it's for a home, and it has 2 crossovers. There's 2 tweeters in it. It's like a stereo speaker. Crazy thing. I paid $7 for it. It was $6.99 in the box. And this is for if you're a fancy rich person and you have a mansion and you want speakers in your home. They're starting to build these really nice full range speakers that are stereo. So you have one cabinet, but you have a stereo mix going to it because there's actually there's two grounds and two positives. There's two crossovers, there's two tweeters. So I don't know if they're sub-mixing on the woofer. I don't know how that works, but this speaker is very highly rated. It's, I think it's 180 watts, some kind of crazy wattage rating. You can see here I cut a little hole for the base port because this cabinet is awful. So it's got a master power switch and LED, and then here's a volume. So the idea behind this, running this extra speaker for the guitars, we just picked up these, we just picked up this one. It's a Rockville, and that's a 8-inch woofer with a compression horn. This is a DAS speaker, which is a real expensive German one. So those are supposed to serve the purpose of a matched pair, even though they're different speakers. And they both have compression drivers. That's what I like about it. They're not piezo horn drivers, which I really am not that hot on those. Better than nothing, use a crossover. But ultimately, if you can have a compression driver, which is, if you can go ahead and look at me. Compression drivers, when you look at the tweeter and on the back of it, it's got a big, like a half ball, a big moving part thing, kind of. The piezo tweeter is a plastic disc that's about as thick as a cigarette. So you can imagine just if it's like, oh, here's a tweeter, and you could toss it up in there and it would just shoot up into the clouds. It's so light. That's the piezo, and a lot of stuff has those piezos in there because they're cheap and people, they can't see through the grill. They don't know what they're getting. So that's real common, is piezo tweeters. And people go, oh, they're fine, they work fine, they work fine. Well, they blow. And they don't sound half as good as a real compression driver. So that was why I wanted to get compression horns for this setup. And because I'm using this Zoom modeler for the guitar tones, you're not supposed to use a guitar speaker. I tried all kinds of different things, using guitar speakers and putting a crossover with a horn, a compression driver, a tweeter on it was like better. This is the best, having full range speakers. So here is the sub. It's a 2.1 amp. We're getting to the guts here. You know what I forgot to point out? Here's another pedal for the bass guitar. It's just a little mix, what do you call it? It's an EQ. And that comes before the Zoom. So we're not sure if we'll use that or not today, but it's nice to have a little bit more signal shaking than what's on the mixer. So as far as the mixer amp goes, I'm going to power it down. Here's the master volume. I'm going to shut the power off here, shut the power off here, and shut the power off there. And it looks like that did it. So for the mixer amp, it's a stereo mixer. It's got a master, a music channel, music 2, and audio. So audio is me. That's the guitar coming out of the EQ, the Zoom. And then music 2 is my wife. That's the bass, which is the Zoom B1 that's being pushed by a little EQ if we want it. And then the music 1 is this little MP3 driver here. This has a TF card. I'm going to push this in even though I shouldn't. It's this tiny little SanDisk 8 gig memory card that we fill up with the drum loops that we play along with. So how this will all work is I'll pull this up and hit play, and it does a 4 count, click, 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 and then my wife and I both start playing the song. And we have a set list here. These are the songs that we've got. These are the songs that we've got on the memory card today. There's 46 songs on this memory card. So I've got a backup card. There's 2 cards. I've got a backup MP3 player. There's another MP3 just in case something goes wrong. And this one runs off of a little plug with an RCA cable that can plug into these inputs here. And you can see in here it runs off 18650, a pair of those which plug in here. So I buy these little holders, 2, 3, or 4, and then wire them up however I need them. And if I go anything over 12 volts, I always fuse it. So taking a look in here, it's pretty basic. There's 2 inputs, and then so the inputs are 1/4 inch stereo. And then there's one over here. And then there's 3 outputs, right speaker, left speaker, and sub speaker. And then on the inside we have the mixer, which came out of a device for taking slideshow or Super 8 movies and putting it in a mirror. It was a mirror box that you could hook up to a video camera and convert old Super 8 movies into videotape or digital, and then run soundtrack with this rudimentary mixer that runs off of 6 volts. So I run the 2 lithium ion, these are 4.7 volts. These 2 here power both the mixer and the MP3 unit. And then here's the amp, and that's 50 by 2 for the speakers and 100 by 1 for the sub. So basically how that works is the sound, like I said, my guitar comes in this jack and it runs up here to this mixer. The bass comes in through this jack over here, runs up to this mixer channel. The MP3 is soldered right into this channel here, and then we adjust the levels on this front panel here. There's 3 of them that I'll be playing with a master volume, and then it feeds this amp here, right and left 50 watts going out to the satellite speakers, and then a main 100 watt to the sub. And that goes through these 1/4 inch jack outputs here. So it's sub, right, and left. And then this is the 48 volt. This is the power in. I'll show you this. This is a real expensive thing. This was a e-bike, an electronic bike that, come on. This is an electronic bicycle battery, and we got it for $4.99 at Goodwill. And when we got home, I looked it up. I'm like, this thing's got to be ridiculous how expensive. This is $499 battery. So it's got this ridge here where this slides into the back of the bike on your book rack, and this powers the motor. So this is enough to give a fat guy a ride. So it's going to be powering our amp today. Now this thing puts out 48 volts, and I had a 48 volt 2 amp charger, which is exactly what this charges at from factory, and I had that adapter from buying every large adapter that I see when I go to Goodwill. Usually having to twist someone's arm about that. 48 volts, what the F are you going to do with that? A couple alligator clips and I'll show you. This here is a step-down transformer. It's a big one. And you can see here it's labeled 48 volts in, 24 volt out at 10 amp. That's what, or this is actually 15. Because I always say, oh, it's, yeah, there it is. It says 15. See, I didn't lie in that other video. So this basically is just my doing. I drilled it out and ran it's JB welded on the bottom, and then there's 1 screw holding it in because I can only weasel 1 screw. And then I rewired it, took it apart, and had the input wires cascading into here, and then there's a fuse on the output. So yeah, it's kind of rinky-dink. The connection is not the best. But for what we do, we're going to be careful with it. It should work out okay. So basically, we turn this power on here, the lights come on, and then I'll power on my mixer first, bring the volumes down, and let's see if we get some music. I gotta press this button here to get the line in. Now how this works over here. Master volume, treble control, and volume for the satellite speakers. Then we have frequency for the sub and sub volume. So right now, yeah, it, dare I say, it boogies. And like I should mention, here we tend to bring backups for stuff. So, God, I hate to make this video so incredibly long. Why don't we walk over towards the back and we can just show the amount of gig bags that we have. This is all backup stuff that we have, because we don't want to come all the way out to the location, have something fail. And so yeah, gig bags in here, and then I've got them covered up to make it look nice in case a cop shows up, but more gig bags here. And this is full of gig bags. Now, where is the? There's a bag with batteries in it. I wanted to show them the sealed lead. Oh yeah, you know what? I got it right here. This is what we use when we don't normally use it. Lithium ion, that giant e-bike battery is brand new. We've never used that. So typically, this is a pair of sealed lead acid batteries. I don't know if you can see that. Do we have just one?
In the camera bag.
Oh, in the camera bag. So yeah, you would hook this up here on these two, and it's fused, and then there's your on switch, and that would give you 24 volts out of this battery bag, which I don't know if you can tell the size of this. There's two batteries in here, so how heavy they are. That's a 7 mAh. That's almost like a mini, like a tractor battery or a lawnmower electric start battery or a motorcycle battery, similar to what that is. 12 volt 7 mAh. Often you find them in a fire safety panel. If the power goes out, this will still trigger the fire alarm. You usually have a couple of those in an apartment. So that's when you hear me talking all the time about, we'll walk over this way. When you hear me all the time going on and on about the remote music day, the outdoor music days, take a look on this channel. If you go back, there's ever-evolving rigs going back to, well, I didn't film, going back 5 years, and more than that. My wife is coaching me on what to say. I remember a lot more than 5 years ago doing stuff like this, getting in trouble doing it. We got kicked out of Cook County. But the point is that the rig is always evolving, and this is the minimalist rig we've ever used. This is the smallest rig. It's tiny. Usually we have 2 huge cabinets just for the drum machine, and then we have a pair of cabinets for a keyboard player, the mono 100 watt single 12, and a huge cabinet for the backup guitar. 2 Gauss 2148 12s and big cabinets for me, and then she's got a couple of big cabinets, and all that stuff adds up. We'll fill a couple of carloads up, and that's the family band where I have my other 2 daughters involved. The one girl plays rhythm guitar, the other girl plays keyboards, and we have a whole different 110 plus songs for that. So this is what we call the duo. There's songs from last year, maybe the year before, up on my channel, and there'll be more music from this year. It's pretty much all original. There's minimal covers in there, and it's instrumental, basic instrumental rock is what I like to call it. So